They called me the money man, not husband, not partner, not even Ethan when the cameras were rolling or the investors were circling. Just the money man. Vanessa would smile that razor smile of hers, the one that made photographers lean in closer, and she'd gesture toward me with her champagne flute like I was part of the decor. Oh, Ethan handles all that boring stuff. The numbers, you know. I couldn't do what I do without my money man. 25 years of that. 25 years of cutting checks while she built an empire on my grandfather's trust distributions. The Cole Family Trust, established 1947, designed to keep the money in the family and away from gold diggers and con artists. Grandfather Cole would have called Vanessa both. I called her my wife. Past tense now, present tense for what's coming. I'm 48 years old, and I wear the same 3 button-downs on rotation because I never saw the point of fashion. Vanessa saw the point of everything fashionable. She turned her eye for color and cut into Vanessa Hale Boutique, then into 5 boutiques, then into a direct-to-consumer line that got written up in Vogue. She did it all with my money, but she had the vision. I'll give her that. She had vision like a hawk has vision, sharp, focused, and always looking for the next thing to tear apart. The affair started somewhere around year 23, but I didn't catch it until last spring. Or maybe I didn't want to catch it. When you've spent that long building a life with someone, your brain does interesting things to protect itself. It smooths over the late nights. It explains away the new lingerie that never makes an appearance at home. It rationalizes the way she started pronouncing my name with that little pause before it, like she had to remind herself who I was. Julian Park arrived as her elite operations director 2 years ago. Elite is a word people use when they mean expensive and useless. Julian was both. He drove a ceramic-coated import coupe that cost more than my first house. He wore his suits like armor and his cologne like a weapon. You smelled Julian 3 seconds before the man himself appeared, like trumpets before a mediocre king. I noticed the lipstick on an invoice first. Crimson Red Nutter 4, Vanessa's signature shade, smudged on the corner of a Q3 logistics report Julian had left in the conference room. Then I started watching the calendars. His Seattle visits overlapped with her weekend inventory checks. His car detailing appointments happened the Monday after her mystery Saturdays. The kind of details you don't see until you're looking, and then you can't see anything else. I didn't confront her. I'm not built for confrontation. I'm built for patience and paperwork and keeping very, very good records. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. Vanessa had her assistant serve them to me at breakfast, which was a nice touch. Very her. I was eating toast. The assistant was 23 and looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. I want this to be amicable, Vanessa told me that night. We were in the living room of the house I'd bought. She was drinking wine I'd paid for. We'll split everything fairly, 50-50. You get the trust income, I get the business, clean break. Sounds fair, I said. She blinked. She'd been ready for a fight. Really? Really. You built something. You should have it. The smile she gave me was the first genuine one I'd seen in 5 years. It made me feel something complicated and dark that I didn't have a name for yet. The first divorce hearing was set for September. Her lawyer was Harvey Knox, one of those expensive downtown types who wore his Harvard degree like a flag. My lawyer was a calm woman named Ruth who charged a third of Harvey's rate and smiled like she knew a secret. I showed up in khakis and a polo shirt. Harvey showed up in $3,000 of Italian wool. Vanessa wore white. Symbolic, probably. Julian wasn't there, but I knew he was waiting outside in his ridiculous car, ready to celebrate when this was over. Judge Ellery had a face like a hammer and a reputation for cutting through bullshit. She read through the initial filings with the kind of expression that suggested she'd seen this same story 500 times before. Mrs. Cole is seeking 50% of all marital assets, Judge Ellery said. Mr. Cole, your response indicates you're agreeable to this? Generally, yes, I said, with one clarification. Harvey leaned forward. Your Honor, we've been very clear about the asset division. I'm sure you have, Judge Ellery said. Mr. Cole, clarify. Ruth slid a document across the table. It was thick. Harvey picked it up and started reading. I watched his face change. It went from confident to confused to very, very pale. Your Honor, Ruth said quietly, there's a complication regarding the business assets Mrs. Cole believes she owns outright. Vanessa was still smiling. She didn't understand yet. Harvey understood. His pen hit the oak table with a sound I'll hear every Christmas for the rest of my life. What complication? Vanessa asked. Ruth looked at me. I looked at Judge Ellery. Judge Ellery was reading the document now, and her eyebrows were climbing toward her hairline. Oh, God, Judge Ellery said. This can't be real. It's real, Ruth said. The prenuptial agreement Mrs. Cole signed in 2000 included an addendum acknowledging that Mr. Cole's income flows from the Cole Family Trust, which has a spendthrift provision and a morality clause. Specifically, the trust prohibits the commingling of trust funds with outside business ventures unless proper secured lending terms are established in favor of the beneficiary. Harvey was flipping pages. We'd need to review. We reviewed it, Ruth said. For 25 years, Mr. Cole funded Mrs. Cole's business ventures. For the first 5 years, he did it correctly, secured notes, UCC-1 filings, proper lending documentation. Then Mrs. Cole's business took off, and they got casual about it. The paperwork stopped. The money kept flowing. Under the terms of the trust, any assets purchased with improperly commingled funds become encumbered collateral subject to reclamation or purchase at a formula price. Vanessa's smile was gone. What does that mean? Judge Ellery set down the document. She was trying not to laugh. I could see it in the corners of her mouth. It means, Judge Ellery said, that your husband has a legitimate claim to seize your business for approximately 12% of its fair market value. The silence in that courtroom was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Harvey found his voice. Your Honor, this is clearly punitive. This is clearly documented, Ruth said. She produced another stack of papers. UCC-1 filings from 2000 through 2005, properly maintained and renewed. Then nothing. But the trust provisions don't expire. They're not time-barred. Mrs. Cole signed the prenup. She acknowledged the terms. She accepted the funds anyway. Vanessa turned to me. Her face was white under her makeup. You wouldn't dare. I already did, I said. I triggered the purchase option this morning. Judge Ellery did laugh then. Just once, short and sharp. This is the damnedest thing I've seen all year. We're going to need time to review this properly. Continued to October 15th. In the meantime, Mr. Cole, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order preventing any asset transfers or encumbrances on the business properties pending resolution. Harvey was still staring at the paperwork. Vanessa was staring at me. I looked at her and felt nothing but a clean, cold satisfaction. They called me the money man. They should have remembered that the money man keeps receipts. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The trick to destroying someone is patience. Most people think revenge is hot. They think it's rage and impulse and stupid decisions made at 2 in the morning when you can't sleep. That's how amateurs do it. Professional revenge is cold. It's spreadsheets and contract law and knowing exactly which clause in which document will make your enemy's lawyer drop his pen. I learned that from Grandfather Cole. He didn't found the trust on accident. He founded it after his first wife tried to take him for everything in 1949. Took him 2 years, but he buried her so deep in legal paperwork that she fled to California and never spoke his name again. Then he built a fortress made of words and left it to me. Vanessa didn't speak to me for 3 days after the hearing. She moved into the guest house behind the main property. Technically still ours, technically within the restraining order's bounds. Julian parked his coupe in her driveway the first night. I watched from the kitchen window and made notes. Note 1. Julian stays until 4 a.m. Note 2. Ceramic coating on his car is new. Probably $8,000. Vanessa mentioned budget cuts at the boutique last month. Note 3. They're not hiding anymore. Ruth called me on the 4th day. They're going to fight this, she said. Harvey's bringing in a trust litigation specialist from California. This is going to get expensive. I have the trust, I said. Expense isn't a factor. Ethan. Ruth's voice went careful. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Are you doing this because it's legally right, or because you want to hurt her? I thought about it. I've always been honest with Ruth. Both, I said. That's what I thought. Okay. Then we do it right. We make sure every move is bulletproof, because Harvey is going to look for any crack he can exploit. He'll argue undue influence, unconscionability, punishment for infidelity, anything to make you look like the villain. I am the villain, I said. I'm fine with that. The court might not be. Then we'll show them the receipts. Ruth laughed. It was a tired sound. You really have been planning this. No, I said. I've just been paying attention. That's the truth. I didn't plan this. Right up until I found that lipstick on Julian's logistics report, I thought we were fine. Not happy maybe, but fine. Functional. 25 years is a long time to throw away over some midlife crisis, right? But then I started looking at the calendars, and the credit card statements, and the texts Vanessa left open on her iPad because she thought I was too boring to be curious. Lila, he's being difficult about the new lease. Can you draft something that makes him think it's his idea? Tell Julian the coast is clear tonight. Money man is in Portland. I swear to God, if he quotes one more trust clause at me, I'm going to lose it. Like, we get it, Ethan. Your grandfather was rich. You're just the guy who signs the checks. That last one was in a group chat with her PR team. 8 people saw her call me just the guy who signs the checks. 8 people liked it. I screenshotted everything, backed it up 3 times, and started reading the trust documents like they were scripture. The spendthrift provision was on page 47. The morality clause was on page 52. The secured lending requirements were in Appendix C. Grandfather Cole had thought of everything. How to protect family money from bad marriages, bad business deals, bad ideas. He just never thought his grandson would have to use it against his own wife. Or maybe he did. Maybe that's why he made it so sharp. I called Owen Glass on day 5. Owen and I worked together back in the 90s before I sold my fintech tool and retired into being Vanessa's checkbook. Owen ran a legitimate asset recovery and logistics firm now. Warehouses, movers, auction contacts. The kind of business that lives in the gray space between legal and ethical but never crosses the line. Ethan Cole, Owen said when he answered. Heard you're getting divorced. Congrats or condolences? Neither. I need a consultation. Legal or practical? Both. We met at his warehouse in Georgetown. The place smelled like dust and rope and oil. Good smells, working smells. Owen had gotten bigger since I last saw him. Gray in his beard now, but his eyes were still sharp. I laid out the paperwork on a folding table. The trust documents, the prenup, the UCC1 filings from 2000 through 2005, the absence of any filings after that, the bank statements showing 2 decades of wire transfers from me to Vanessa Hale Boutique, LLC. Owen read slowly. When he finished, he looked at me with something like respect. You're really going to do this, he said. I really am. She's going to hate you. She already does. She just hid it better before. Owen nodded. What do you need from me? The boutiques lease their retail space, 5 locations. The flagship is in Capitol Hill. Under the trust provision, if she can't prove she can maintain the secured debt service, which she can't because there is no secured debt, just my gifts, then the assets become subject to immediate reclamation or forced sale. You want to repo her inventory? I want to do it legally, which means I need landlord cooperation, proper notice, licensed movers, and someone who knows how to inventory 10,000 pieces of clothing without getting sued for theft. Owen smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I know people, but this is going to be loud, Ethan. This is going to be messy and public and very, very personal. You sure you want your name on it? My name is already on it. I'm the money man, remember? You keep saying that like it's an insult. It is an insult, but I'm taking it back. We spent 2 hours going through the logistics. Owen had a contact at a commercial moving company who specialized in retail inventory transfers. He had another contact who handled short-notice locksmith services. He had a third contact who could document everything with body cameras and get it all notarized by the end of the day. The flagship's landlord is Marta Ruiz, I said. She's practical, hates late rent. Vanessa's been late 3 times this year. I know Marta, Owen said. She'll cooperate if you can show her the trust provisions give you the right. She's not going to risk her own liability by letting you just walk in. I don't want to just walk in. I want to do it legally, perfectly legally. I want Harvey Knox to review every document and find nothing but his own incompetence staring back at him. Owen leaned back in his chair. You've changed, man. You used to be so boring. I was going to say careful. I'm still careful. I'm just careful in a different direction now. He nodded slowly. When do you want to move? The covenant check is Friday. If she misses it, and she will because she thinks Harvey can delay everything in court, then we move Saturday, after closing, with Marta present, by the book. By the book, Owen repeated. You really think the book is going to protect you when this blows up? I thought about Vanessa's texts, about Julian's car in her driveway, about 25 years of being called the money man while they spent my inheritance like it was monopoly money. I don't need protection, I said. I need vindication. Owen stood up and offered his hand. Then let's vindicate the hell out of you. We shook on it. His grip was solid. Mine was too. That night I got a text from Vanessa, first contact since the hearing. We need to talk. This is insane. I didn't reply, but I did screenshot it and add it to the folder. Evidence of consciousness of guilt, Ruth would call it. I just called it Thursday. Friday came. The covenant deadline was 5 p.m. At 4:58, I got a notification from the bank. No payment received, no wire transfer initiated, nothing. At 5:01, I forwarded the notification to Ruth and Owen. At 5:15, Ruth filed the covenant breach notice with the court. At 5:30, Owen called Marta Ruiz. At 6 p.m., I poured myself 2 fingers of scotch and watched the sunset over Elliott Bay. At 7, Vanessa called. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. At 8, Julian's coupe pulled up to the guest house. I watched him get out, watched him look toward the main house like he wanted to come over and have words. He didn't. He was smarter than he looked. Or maybe just more scared. At 9, my phone buzzed, a text from Owen. Truck scheduled for tomorrow, 10 p.m. Marta confirmed, body cam's ready. This is really happening. I typed back, yes. 1 word, 3 letters. The simplest answer in the English language. But it felt like the most honest thing I'd said in 25 years. Thursday morning, the trustee meeting. The Cole family trust office was downtown, 16th floor of an old building that smelled like brass polish and expensive wood. I'd been here maybe 10 times in my entire life, usually for annual reviews, perfunctory things where they'd ask me questions about my distributions and spending habits, nod along, and release the next quarter's funds. This would be different. I wore a suit. Not one of my usual polos or button-downs, but an actual suit I'd bought for my wedding and worn maybe 5 times since. Navy blue, conservative, professional. The kind of thing that said I was serious. That said, I understood the weight of this moment. Ruth met me in the lobby. She looked tired. Harvey filed 3 more motions this morning, she said. He's trying to bury us in paperwork before Friday's hearing. Will it work? No, but it'll make the judge cranky, which doesn't help anyone. She looked me over. Good suit. Thanks. Remember, you're here to reassure the trustees that you're acting as a responsible fiduciary. You're not here to gloat. You're not here to confess. You're here to present facts and let them reach the obvious conclusion that you've done nothing wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. Legally, no. Morally, she shrugged. That's not my department. Come on, they're waiting. The conference room was oak and leather and those old-style banker's lamps with green glass shades. The 5 trustees sat on one side of a long table. I sat on the other side with Ruth. It felt like a tribunal. The trustees were Margaret Cole, my father's sister. 72, sharp as a knife, hated my mother. David Cole, my second cousin. 56, worked in commercial real estate, barely knew me. Arthur Chen, trust attorney. 60-something, been with the trust since the 80s. Patricia Okoye, CPA and forensic accountant. 40s, no nonsense. And Robert Vance, the trust's investment advisor. Silver hair, expensive watch, the kind of man who made money his religion. Margaret spoke first. Ethan, we've received some concerning communications from Mrs. Cole's attorney regarding your recent activities. I'm aware. He alleges you're using trust distributions for personal vendetta, that you're deliberately sabotaging a business your wife built, that you're putting the trust's reputation and assets at risk. She leaned forward. Is that accurate? No, ma'am. Then explain what you've been doing. Ruth slid a document across the table. With your permission, I'd like to walk through the timeline and legal basis for Mr. Cole's actions. Arthur Chen picked up the document. Read the first page. His eyebrows went up. Ruth continued. In 2000, when Mr. and Mrs. Cole married, they executed a prenuptial agreement that explicitly acknowledged the restrictions of the Cole family trust. Specifically, the spendthrift provision and the prohibition on commingling trust distributions with outside business ventures without proper secured lending documentation. We're aware of the trust provisions, Patricia said, but this situation feels... Let me finish. Ruth's voice was polite but firm. For the first 5 years, Mr. Cole properly documented all loans to Mrs. Cole's business. UCC-1 filings were maintained. Secured notes were executed. Everything was by the book. She slid more papers across. Then, starting in 2006, the documentation stopped. Mrs. Cole's business was growing rapidly. She didn't want to bother with paperwork. Mr. Cole, wanting to support his wife, didn't insist. David looked at me. That was your mistake. Yes, I said, it was. For 19 years, Ruth continued, Mr. Cole provided approximately $4.2 million in trust distributions to capitalize and expand his wife's boutique chain, all of it improperly unsecured, all of it in violation of the trust's commingling provisions. Robert Vance whistled low. $4 million? 4.2. Documented in these bank statements. More papers. The business grew to an estimated valuation of $12 million. Mrs. Cole filed for divorce in August, seeking 50% of all marital assets, including trust distributions she claimed were gifts. Gifts, Margaret repeated. The way she said it made clear what she thought of that claim. Mr. Cole's attorney reviewed the original trust provisions and the prenup. It became clear that every asset purchased with improperly commingled funds was subject to reclamation or forced sale under the trust's secured creditor provisions. When Mrs. Cole failed to meet a covenant deadline, Mr. Cole exercised his legal right to inventory and recover those assets. By emptying her boutique in the middle of the night, Patricia said, with the landlord present, proper notice, licensed movers, and full documentation. Nothing about the recovery was illegal or improper. But it was aggressive, Arthur said. It was necessary. Mrs. Cole had been systematically bleeding trust assets for 2 decades. Her business was overleveraged. She was behind on rent at multiple locations. She had defaulted on credit lines. Ruth looked at each trustee in turn. If Mr. Cole hadn't acted, the trust could have been held liable for her business debts through the doctrine of equitable commingling. That got their attention. Patricia leaned forward. Is that true? Ask your own counsel, Ruth said. But yes. By allowing trust funds to flow into an improperly structured business, Mr. Cole created potential liability exposure. The only way to sever that exposure was to reclaim the assets and establish clear legal separation. Silence. The trustees looked at each other. I kept my hands folded on the table, trying to look calm, responsible, like someone who deserved to control millions of dollars in family assets. Margaret spoke. What about the car? I blinked. I'm sorry? Mrs. Cole's companion's car. Harvey's motion mentioned you had it repossessed. How is that protecting trust assets? Ruth jumped in. That was a separate transaction. Mr. Cole purchased a delinquent auto note through a private investment vehicle, completely divorced from trust activities. But it happened the same weekend you emptied the boutique, David said. That's not a coincidence. No, I said. It's not. Ruth looked at me sharply. Don't improvise, her look said, but I was tired of hiding, tired of pretending. You want the truth? Fine. Here's the truth. My wife cheated on me. For months, maybe years. She spent my inheritance, our family's money, like it was nothing. She called me just the money man in group chats with her staff. She was planning to take half of everything and walk away with her lover while I got nothing but the satisfaction of having funded her success. The room was silent. So yes, I continued. When I found out I could legally recover what was mine, I did it. And yes, when I found out her lover was driving around in a $60,000 car he couldn't afford, I bought his debt and took it. That wasn't about the trust. That was about me. Margaret was smiling, actually smiling. Good. Patricia looked shocked. Good? He's finally showing some spine. 48 years old, and he's finally acting like a Cole. Margaret looked at me. Your grandfather would have done the same thing, probably worse. That's not... Arthur started. Oh, shut up, Arthur. You've read the trust provisions. You know what grandfather intended. He built this trust to protect the family from predators. Vanessa Cole is a predator. She married into this family, took our money, and tried to walk away rich. Margaret tapped the table. Ethan did what he had to do. I vote to uphold his beneficiary status. I second, David said immediately. Patricia looked at her notes, at the spreadsheets, at the bank statements. The numbers support his actions. The business was overleveraged. The liability exposure was real. If he hadn't moved when he did, she sighed. I'm not comfortable with the personal vendetta aspects. But legally? He's protected the trust. I vote to uphold. Arthur and Robert exchanged glances. Robert nodded. Arthur sighed. 4-0, Arthur said. With one abstention. Mr. Cole, your beneficiary status is upheld, but I'm going to recommend we implement quarterly reviews for the next 2 years, just to make sure this doesn't become a pattern. That's fine, I said. And Ethan? Margaret's voice stopped me as I stood. Next time you want to destroy your wife's life, do it faster. Dragging it out makes you look cruel. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Ruth and I left. Took the elevator down to the lobby in silence. Outside, the Seattle rain was starting, that constant drizzle that never quite stops. That went better than I expected, Ruth said. Margaret liked it. Margaret is a shark in a cardigan. But yes, she liked it, and that's what matters. Ruth opened her umbrella. The hearing tomorrow is still going to be rough. Harvey's going to paint you as an abuser. The judge might impose limits on further recovery actions. I know. Are you ready for that? Was I? I'd already taken the flagship boutique. Julian's car was gone. Vanessa was scrambling. But the other 4 boutiques were still operating, still generating revenue, still acting like nothing had changed. I'm ready, I said. Ruth studied me. You're not going to do anything stupid before tomorrow, are you? Define stupid. Ethan. I'll be good, I promise. She didn't look convinced, but she nodded and walked away, her umbrella bobbing through the downtown crowd. I stood there in the rain for a while, feeling the water soak through my suit jacket, feeling something like relief or maybe just exhaustion. My phone buzzed. Owen. Lila just called me, said Vanessa's people are moving inventory out of the Bellevue location tonight, trying to hide assets before tomorrow's hearing. The relief evaporated. Can she do that? I asked. Legally? Maybe, if she argues the other boutiques aren't covered by the same covenants, but it's shady as hell, and if you let her do it, you're going to lose leverage. I looked up at the gray sky, at the rain falling on the city I'd lived in my whole life, at the buildings where Vanessa had built her empire on my money. Set up surveillance, I said. Document everything. If she's moving assets, I want proof. You sure? That's going to look bad tomorrow if Harvey finds out. Harvey already thinks I'm a monster, might as well be a prepared monster. Owen laughed. All right, I'll put someone on it. But Ethan? Yeah? Margaret's right. Next time, move faster. He hung up. I walked to my car, drove home through traffic that crawled and honked and didn't care about my problems. The house was still empty when I got there. Vanessa's car was gone. The guest house was dark. She'd moved out completely now, probably into a hotel or maybe into Julian's apartment. Wherever they went, they were there together, planning their next move, trying to figure out how to beat me. They couldn't. I'd made sure of that. But they'd try. And tomorrow, in front of a judge, we'd see who the court believed, the money man or the woman who called him pathetic. I was betting on receipts. Friday. The hearing. The King County Superior Court building was gray concrete and institutional lighting, the kind of place that smelled like floor wax and broken families. I got there at 8:30 for a 9 o'clock hearing. Ruth was already waiting, briefcase in hand, looking like she'd been up all night. She probably had. Harvey filed an emergency motion at midnight, she said. He's got declarations from 3 of Vanessa's employees saying you've been harassing them. I've never spoken to any of her employees. I know. That's what I told Judge Ellery. She wasn't happy about the midnight filing. Ruth smiled grimly. Harvey's getting desperate. We went through security, took the elevator to the 4th floor. The corridor outside the courtroom was crowded. Other cases, other lawyers, other people having the worst day of their lives. I saw Harvey Knox at the far end, talking to Vanessa. She was wearing black mourning clothes, very symbolic. Julian was there too, standing off to the side like a bodyguard. Vanessa saw me. Our eyes met. 25 years of marriage, and I couldn't read her expression. Was it hate, fear, regret? Probably all 3. The bailiff called us in at 9 sharp. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, older, wood paneling gone dark with age. Judge Ellery was already at the bench, reading something on her computer screen. She looked up when we entered. Mr. Knox, Ms. Ruth, sit down. Let's get through this without theatrics. We sat, Harvey on one side with Vanessa, me and Ruth on the other. Julian wasn't allowed in, not a party to the case. He'd have to wait outside. Judge Ellery looked at her notes. We're here on Mr. Knox's emergency motion for a temporary restraining order preventing further asset recovery actions by Mr. Cole. Mr. Knox, you have 15 minutes. Make them count. Harvey stood. He was good. I'd give him that. His voice was measured, reasonable, sympathetic. Your Honor, this case is about a vindictive husband using archaic trust provisions to destroy a successful businesswoman because she dared to leave him. Mr. Cole has already stolen inventory worth hundreds of thousands of dollars from one boutique. He's repossessed his wife's companion's vehicle. He's threatened to do the same to 4 more business locations. This isn't about protecting trust assets. This is about revenge. Judge Ellery looked at me. Mr. Cole, you do come across as rather motivated. I'm protecting my rights under a valid contract, I said. Let him finish, Judge Ellery said. Go ahead, Mr. Knox. Harvey clicked a button. A screen descended behind the judge. PowerPoint slides appeared. Photos of the empty boutique, the dark windows, the bare racks. This is what Mr. Cole did, Harvey said. In the middle of the night, he removed every piece of inventory from a thriving business. He did this without notice to Mrs. Cole, without giving her any chance to cure the alleged breach, without any consideration for the employees whose livelihoods depend on this business. More slides. Emails from employees. Testimonials about how the boutique closure had affected them. Photos of the staff, young women mostly, diverse, sympathetic. Good strategy. Make it about the little people, not about Vanessa's affair. Mrs. Cole built this business from nothing, Harvey continued. Yes, her husband provided initial capital, but she provided the vision, the work, the talent. Under Washington community property law, that makes the business a marital asset. Mr. Cole's trust provisions don't override state law, and his actions... Actually, Judge Ellery interrupted, they might. Ms. Ruth, do you have a response to the community property argument? Ruth stood. Yes, Your Honor. The prenuptial agreement explicitly carved out trust distributions from community property. Mrs. Cole acknowledged this in writing. She can't now claim ignorance. The prenup is unconscionable, Harvey shot back. The prenup has been in force for 25 years. Mrs. Cole never challenged it, never even questioned it. She only objects now because it's inconvenient. Judge Ellery held up her hand. All right, I've read the prenup. It's valid. The question is whether Mr. Cole's enforcement is reasonable or punitive. She looked at me. Mr. Cole, why did you empty the boutique at night? Because the landlord was available then. Because we wanted to avoid confrontation with Mrs. Cole or her staff. Because it was efficient, or because it was dramatic, Harvey said. Drama wasn't the goal. Compliance with the trust provisions was the goal. We hung up. I spent the next 2 days planning, making spreadsheets, coordinating with Owen's teams, drafting the 48-hour notice that would go to Vanessa's lawyers at exactly the right moment. Sunday night at midnight, 48 hours before the planned action, I sent the notice. Comprehensive asset recovery actions planned for Tuesday night at 4 locations plus the Renton warehouse. Legal grounds attached. Court order compliance attached. Landlord cooperation letters attached. Everything perfect. Everything documented. Everything designed to hurt. At 12:15 a.m., my phone rang. Vanessa, I answered. Hello. You're destroying me. Her voice was raw, like she'd been crying. I'm taking what's mine. It's not yours. I built this. I worked for this. You just signed checks. I signed checks for 25 years. Checks you never documented. Checks you treated like gifts. And now you're learning what happens when you ignore contracts. I loved you. You loved my money. Silence. I could hear her breathing. Fast, shallow, angry. Julian was right about you, she said finally. You're pathetic. Maybe, but I'm pathetic with 4 boutiques about to go dark. I hung up, turned off my phone, went to bed. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough.